We are almost up to date, Baruch Hashem. Today is the 20th day of Chodesh Adar, and we are at the bottom of Daf Kuf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. Our Amud for today is Kuf Yud Zayin Amud Beis, which is a continuation of the discussions of Hallel and Tehillim, at least at the beginning of the Amud. And then we're going to get into a couple of the halachas of which endings of brachas we make at different occasions on Shabbos and Yantif and Kiddush and in davening. And we are at the bottom of Kuf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. We had quoted a machlokes between Rav Huna and Rav Papa, whether or not Rav Chisda and Rav Huna, whether or not Hallel in Hallelujah, the word Hallelujah is the end of a parak or it is the beginning of a parak of Tehillim. And then we saw that there are a couple of exceptions to that everybody agrees that there are certain parakim that Hallelujah is the beginning or the end, or really the end. That's pretty much what everybody agrees to. The question is, are there some that are the beginning as well? And we had seen that there was some machloksim and some sveikas, like the Tehillim in Rav Chanan bar Rava's yeshiva, and in others that the word Hallelujah was in the middle of the two prakim. And the Gemara is now going to try to say that these two tzdadim is a machlokes tanaim. In two different presentations of the machlokes that we saw in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah told us that Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai had disagreed with how far you get in Hallel on Leil HaSeder before the second cup. And to that end, says the Gemara 3 lines from the bottom, Nema Ketanai. Let's say that this machlokes between Rav Chisda and Rav Huna is machlokes Tanaim. Ad Heichan Hu Omer, until how far in Tehillim, in the Hallel, do you say before the second cup? Beis Shammai says Ad Eim Habanim Smecha, until Eim Habanim Smecha, without the word Hallelujah there. Keep that in mind. Beis Hillel says Ad Chalamish Lemanei Mayim, that you carry until Chalamish Lemanei Mayim, meaning the paragraph that says Shalom Mitzrayim, and you stop before Lolanu Hashem Lolanu. That is how we have in the Mishnah. V'tani idich, but we have a brisa that tells us. The brisa tells us Ad Heichan Hu Omer. How far do you go? Beis Shammai says Ad B'tzeis Shalom Mitzrayim, until B'tzeis Shalom Mitzrayim. Well, that isn't that Beis Hillel's opinion. Beis Hillel Omer Ad Lolanu Hashem Lolanu, and Beis Hillel says you go until Lolanu Hashem Lolanu. So it's very clear that what we're talking about is the same machlokes. One of them is saying, in the language of the Gemara, what we'll see in a moment, ad v'ad bichlal, and one is saying ad v'lai bichlal. Meaning, our Mishnah is saying you go up to, meaning up to ema v'adam smecha, up to and including ema v'adam smecha, meaning you finish with that. Beis Hillel says ad chalamish l'manamai, meaning up to and including chalamish l'manamai. And then you have another brisa that says, how far do you go? Beis Shammai is going to tell you, ad b'tzeis Shalom Mitzrayim, meaning up to, but not including b'tzeis Shalom Mitzrayim. Beis Hillel is going to say, up to, but not including Lolanu Hashem Lolanu. How does this relate to the machlokes Rav Chisda and Rav Huna? We'll see as follows, top of Kuf Yud Zayin and Beis. Says the Gemara, my love, b'hakim ifligi, is not that they are disagreeing with this argument. Lemanda Amar ad eim habanim smecha, according to the opinion that says, ad until eim habanim smecha, Savar, Hallelujah Reish Pirka. He holds that Hallelujah is the beginning of the next parak, meaning that's the Mishnah. The way the Mishnah says it is Hallelujah, the word Hallelujah. So that Hallelujah belongs to the next parak, B'tzeis Shalom Mitzrayim. Umanda Amar Ad B'tzeis Yisrael, and the one that says until and the brisa that says Ad B'tzeis Yisrael, Savar Hallelujah Saif Pirka. He holds that Hallelujah belongs to the previous parak, and that's why he says Ad B'tzeis Yisrael, meaning up to but not including the words B'tzeis Yisrael. Maybe that's the machlokes here. However, you have a machlokes between these two brises, and you have a machlokes Amoraim, Rav Chisda and Rav Huna. Says the Gemara, well, maybe each of them can explain both the Mishnah and the brisa according to the Shita. Rav Chisda Metaras Satam. Rav Chisda could explain it according to his rationale. The Chule Alma, everybody agrees. The Chole Amar Sabri Hallelujah Saif Pirka. Everybody agrees Hallelujah is the end of the parak. How do you read this now? Man the Amar Ad B'tzeis Yisrael. The one that says that Beis Shammai goes Ad B'tzeis Yisrael. Shapir. That makes good sense. He says up to, but not including B'tzeis Yisrael. So Eim Habanim Smecha Hallelujah period. And then up to, but not including B'tzeis Yisrael. Manda Amar ad ema banim smecha. Well, the one that says up to ema banim smecha, so you should have said ema banim smecha halaluka. But says Rav Chisda ad va'ad bichlal. It is up to and including ema banim smecha. Well, okay, v'nema ad halaluka. Well, then according to that, challenges the Gemara Rav Chisda. Then the Mishnah should have said ad ema banim smecha halaluka. And if you're going to say, because and it should have said ad halaluka, meaning don't say ad ema banim smecha, say ad halaluka. And maybe you're going to say, we wouldn't know which halaluka you're going to. V'nema halaluka shel ema banim smecha. Spell it out. Say ad ema banim smecha halaluka. That would be the correct thing to say. Kasha, yeah, that's taka problem. It should have said that if that was in fact the rationale. So Rav Chisda is now cannot explain both the Mishnah and the Brisa according to his Mahalach. Rabbi Bar Ravuna explains according to his rationale as well. Everybody, both the Mishnah and the Brisa, hold that halaluka is beginning of the parak. Man da Amar ad ema banim smecha shaper. The one that says ad ema banim smecha, that meaning the Brisa, makes good sense. Ema banim smecha, because you're going to stop there, and you're not going to say halaluka, because halaluka belongs to B'tzeis Yisrael. Man da Amar ad B'tzeis Yisrael, but the one that says has B'tzeis Yisrael, so you should say ad halaluka B'tzeis Yisrael. So he says ad v'loy b'chal. No, it's up to, but not including B'tzeis Yisrael. So it's v'nema ad halaluka. So you should say until halaluka B'tzeis Yisrael. V'chitem d'loy didn't halaluka. Maybe you won't know which halaluka. V'nema ad halaluka should B'tzeis Yisrael. It should have said v'nema ad halaluka should B'tzeis Yisrael. That would have been correct. Kasha, that's a problem. So what comes out is when we say Lema Katanai, and then everybody tries to explain according to the rationale, Taka is Machlokes Tanaim. That's how it seems to be. That we have a Mishnah and we have a Brisa that disagree whether halaluka goes as the beginning of the parak or the end of the parak. That is the Machlokes, and it seems to be that this is in fact the Machlokes between the Mishnah and the Brisa. And our Mishnah told us that at the end of it, you end of the bracha of Geula, and we saw that there was Machlokes, Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva, whether or not it's a short ending or a long ending, and we pass on like Rabbi Akiva that it's a long ending, and we say Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael at the end. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava tells us Kriya Shema v'Halel Gal Yisrael, that in the bracha of Kriya Shema, just before the Shemana Esrei, Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael, just before Hashem's Vasai Tiftach, the end of that bracha is Gal Yisrael, as well as in Halel of Leil HaSeder, you say Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael. Hashem, who redeemed the Jewish people. However, the tzlusa, but the bracha that we say in davening is not Ga'al Yisrael in the past tense, but Go'el Yisrael, he who redeems the Jewish people in the present tense. What's the difference? My time, and what's the reason for this? Derachmeninu, because that is tefillah, and that is a petition that you are asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for mercy. You are saying, Hashem, you are the one who is actively redeeming the Jewish people, and therefore it's said in the present tense. We are not saying a retrospective, we are asking for something in the present. Amar Rabbi Zera says, Rabbi Zera to Kedusha, that the bracha that we have of Kiddush is Asher Kiddush Shanu b'mitzvosav Vitzivanu. Now, that Vitzivanu, the Agop takes out here and says that that's incorrect. We never have anywhere in Kiddush Asher Kiddush Shanu b'mitzvosav Vitzivanu. We have Viratzavanu, but we don't have Asher Kiddush Shanu b'mitzvosav Vitzivanu. That doesn't show up in any of the nusach of our Kiddush. So the Agop takes that out. We have the way that we have it here is period. Meaning the Hagas Agra takes this out. The Kedusha Asher Kiddushan Mitzvosav Ditzlusa, right? Meaning Asher Kiddushan B'Mitzvosav, but leaves out the word Vitzivanu completely. It says the Agra that that's not part of the text because we don't have that in our Kiddush at all. But Ditzlusa, what we have in davening, is not Asher Kiddushan B'Mitzvosav, he who made us kadosh with his mitzvahs. The tzlus in davening we have kadeshen b'mitzvah, make us kadosh with your mitzvahs. We're talking in present tense. My time, what's the reason? The rachmin, because you are davening for rachmanos. All of davening is called rachme, is asking Hashem for mercy, and therefore you are asking. This is a present tense request. Amar of Achavar Yaakov says rachme Yaakov v'tzarich sheyasker yitzis mitzrayim kiddush hayam. You need to mention yitzis mitzrayim in kiddush. Now, which kiddush are we talking about here? So, Pashat, that we're talking about kiddush at night, because that's we never add in zechul yitzis mitzrayim during the daytime, because you only need to say bari peragafen, as we have noted. The tzarich sheyasker yitzis mitzrayim kiddush hayam. Ksiv hacha, the pasuk says leman tizkor yom tzeiz chomeres mitzrayim kol yimei chayach. You have to remember that you came out of Egypt all the days of your life. Ksiv Hasam, and the pasuk there says, Zachar Shem Shabbos Gacha, remember Shabbos to keep it Kaddish. And therefore, you have to mention Yitzis Mitzrayim during Kiddush. Now, which Kiddush is this? The way that the Rashbam spells this out is that it must be that we are talking about, because the Hasam and the Hacha, that where's the there and where's the here, it must be that even on Lel HaSeder, we are talking about Zecher Yitzis Mitzrayim in Kiddush. That you still have to say Zecher Yitzis Mitzrayim in Kiddush, even though you're about to tell the whole Sipur Yitzis Mitzrayim. There's lots of lamdas to say about this. The difference between the obligation of Zecher Yitzis Mitzrayim that you have every day, and the Zecher Yitzis Mitzrayim or Vigata Levincha B'Yamahu that shows up on Lel HaSeder. Amar Rabba Bar Shela says, Rabbi Bar Shela did slusa in davening. We daven matzmiach keren Yeshua. Hashem, who makes the horn of salvation sprout. The Haftarah, in the Haftarah, however, we don't make the bracha matzmiach keren Yeshua when we are talking about Malchus B'David. We say Baruch Atah Hashem Magin David. Magin David. That's where the Magin David shows up in davening, is in the Haftarah, and this is based on the pasuk in Shmuel Beis. Hashem says to David, "I will make you a great name, like the names of the Gedolim, like the names of the great ones." Tani Rav Yosef, this is why we say Magin David, meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises David, "I'll give you a bracha. I will make sure that you finish up a bracha, just like the Gedolim, just like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. That you have a bracha that ends with Magin David." Amr Reb Shimon Lakish says, Reb Shimon Lakish, "Ve'eschala go gadol, I'll make you into a great nation." Zeh she'omrim Elokei Avraham. That's why we say Elokei Avraham, because Hashem promises, "I'll make you into a great nation." So we say Elokei Avraham, Va'avarcheka, and I will bless you. Zeh she'omrim Elokei Yitzchak, and for that reason we say Elokei Yitzchak. Va'agadlo shemecha, and I make your name great. Zeh she'omrim Elokei Yaakov. Meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises these things to the others, and therefore we add them into daven. Maybe we should end with Baruch Atah Hashem Magain Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov. Maybe we should end like that. Says the Gemara, no. Talmud, the pasuk says, "V'heyei bracha," you Avram, you're going to be the bracha. B'cha chazman, with you we are going to finish. V'ein chazman gulam, we don't finish with everybody else. You're the one that we're going to finish with. The Kaska famously quoted, "B'cha chazman," with the midah of Avram Avinu, which is chesed. That even if we don't have avodah, and even if we don't have Torah of Yaakov, of Yitzchak and Yaakov, as long as we have Chesed Avram, the Golus will end with the Chesed of Avram. Amar Rabba says, "Ashichinta lesabi de Pumbedisa." I found the elders of Pumbedisa. Who are the elders of Pumbedisa? That's Rav Yehuda and Rav Eina. That's the Gemara in Sanhedrin. The Yasef V'Kamri, they were sitting and saying, "B'Shabsa." On Shabbos, ben b'tzlusa, ben b'kiddusha, whether it is in davening or in kiddush, the bracha is Mekadesh Shabbos. In fact, we pass on like this, as we'll see. B'yom etava, and on Yantif, ben b'tzlusa, ben b'kiddusha, whether it's in davening or in kiddush, what do we say? Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim. We end off the bracha Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim. That's how we finish in both davening and in kiddush. Ve'amina lehu, and says the Gemara, Rava is being self-revelatory, is sharing. Va'amin lo, I told them, Adarabba, I disagree. Did Sulusa, when it comes to davening, Bein b'Shabsa, Bein b'Yom Tava, whether it is in davening, whether Shabbos or Yom Tov, the correct ending of the bracha is Mekadesh Yisrael. That's the correct ending of the bracha always. However, in Kiddush, there's a difference. B'Kiddush of the Shabsa, the Kiddush of Shabbos, Mekadesh Shabbos, B'Yom Tov, Mekadesh Yisrael v'Azmanim. Shabbos, we have a difference. In Shabbos, in Kiddush, you say Mekadesh Shabbos, and in Yom Tov, you're going to say, during Kiddush, Mekadesh Yisrael v'Azmanim. You can't say Mekadesh Shabbos, it's not Shabbos. But in davening, you always say the machlokes is, whether or not in davening, you have a difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov. And according to Rava, Shabbos and Yom Tov, there's no difference in davening. The end of the bracha is Mekadesh Yisrael. And then he has the self-revelatory aspect. Says Rabbi, I'll explain your shita and my shita. Tamididchu, your shita is Shabbos de Kaviyah v'Kaima, Shabbos which is permanent. Shabbos becomes Kaddish because HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it Kaddish from Sheshis and Bereshis. Bein b'tzlusa, bein b'kiddusha, Mekadesh Shabbos. Whether it's davening or it's Kiddush, you're always going to say Mekadesh Shabbos because the Jewish people didn't make Shabbos Kaddish. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did. And therefore, Baruch Atah Hashem. Hashem, you are the Mekadesh Shabbos, the one that made Shabbos Kaddish. Yom Tov, but when it comes to Yom Tov, the Yisrael hu the Kabbalahu, that the Jewish people make Rosh Chodesh and we make the calendar and we make the Kiddush HaChodesh, and therefore the days of Yom Tov are a result of us. We decide when the Rosh Chodesh is going to be. V'kavu l'shani, and we fix the years, and therefore the dates of the Yom Tovim are according to us. Therefore, we should say Mekadosh Yisrael v'hazmanim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you made the Jewish people kadosh, therefore the zmanim are kadosh. That's your shita, says Rava to the elders of Pumbedisa. However, Tamid my shita is Sulusa in davening de berabim isa, that davening is supposed to be in public. The correct thing to finish with is Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadosh Yisrael. In davening, you want to give credence to the Jewish people, and therefore, whether it's Shabbos or Yom Tov, you always want to bless Hashem, the one that is Mekadosh to the Jewish people. However, when it comes to Kiddush, there's a difference. Kiddush, to be Yachid, Kiddush, which is said as an individual, when you come home, the Yachid Isa comes for an individual, but Shabbos, on Shabbos, you're going to say Mekadosh Shabbos. That's appropriate on Shabbos. But Yom Tov, Mekadosh Zalvazmanim, for the same reason that we have already explained. V'loihi, the Gemara challenges Rabbah. That's not necessarily true. Sulusa b'yachid mileisa, what nobody ever davens b'yichidus. Nobody ever davens by themselves on a Shabbos and a Yom Tov. It happens. V'kiddush b'rabim mileisa, what nobody ever makes kiddush in public. We have kiddush in public all the time. Mileisa, v'rava holds no. Zil basar ikar. We go according to the majority, the main reason of these institutions. Kiddush is said primarily at home, and davening is said primarily in the tzibur. Those are the correct placements of things. Which is lehefech from sometimes you have chevra that daven quickly by themselves and have kiddush in public. Says Rava, the opposite is the ikar. And then the Gemara tells a few stories. Ula bar Rav, Nachas come to Rava. Once it happened that Ula bar Rav was the shliach tzibur in front of Rava. Rava who held against the elders of Pumbedisa. Amar, and he davened kesabed to Pumbedisa, meaning he davened, Lichor was on a Shabbos, he said Mekadosh Shabbos in front of him, in front of Rava. And he didn't protest, he didn't say anything. Alma, you see from this, Hadar Bei Rava, that Rava retracted his original opinion. Rav Nasan, Avud de Rav Huna Berei de Rav Nasan, Nachas come to Rav Papa. Once happened that Rav Nasan davened in front of Rav Papa. Amar Kesabed de Pumbedisa, he davened like the nusach of the elders of Pumbedisa, Mekadosh Shabbos in Shabbos davening. V'shavchi Rav Papa said Shkoyach. Amar Ravina says Ana ikla l'Surah. I once went to Surah, Kame de Meremar, and I went in front of Meremar. V'nachas Kame Shlucha de Tzibur, and I was the Chazan. V'amar Kesabed de Pumbedisa, and I held like some of the elders of Pumbedisa. This is Surah. It's not Pumbedisa, different place. Mishaskile Kula Alman. Everybody was yelling at me. Don't say like that. You can't say like that. Amarlahu, and Merema said to them, Shavkuhu, leave him alone. Hilchas Kesabed de Pumbedisa. The halach is like the elders of Pumbedisa. V'loy hava Mishaskile, and they didn't silence him anymore. And that is the end of the story. So we'll continue tomorrow with the Mishnah. Mazru loy kais shlishi, the third cup. And Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach to be continued then. Looking forward. We will see you tomorrow.